Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Chen. I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 243 of the funnel, how to coach a remote sales team. Before we begin, I want to remind you to head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel. Subscribe and we will send you the show notes weekly. Today's agenda, the obvious, how to be effective, steps to success, and put it in writing. The obvious. So before I get started here, I want to tell you how I arrived at this. I do a lot of remote work. I do it because it's more cost efficient for my client and me. I can handle more business from a remote location than I can getting on a plane and flying or driving by car. So a lot of what I do is via remote, and it's oftentimes video chat. I have 2 monitors set up. I really want to get a third. 2 monitors set up, my headphones and microphone. Usually I do the video and then I call in. So if I have a fail on one, I still have the other. So if the phone fails, just plug that headset into the laptop and I can talk, and vice versa. If the laptop fails, I still have the voice. So I get a lot of questions about that remote. How do you make it work? And, obviously there's a trade-off, but I think there's some things you can do to be successful. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So starting with the obvious, effective coaching is key. It's critical to success. And I think most of you know that if you've listened to any of the podcasts, I talk about that. I think I'm making an assumption here that you have an effective coaching system in place. Okay. It is the number one sales activity that can drive sales performance higher than it is today for you. So if you grow and develop and evolve with your sales team and coach your sales team, you're going to have success. Okay, that makes it a little bit more difficult for those that aren't local, right? So if you have a sales force that's spread across the region or spread across the country, it makes coaching a difficult task, and it may be way too infrequent to be effective. So maybe you ride once a month or once a quarter with your rep for a day. It's not enough time to coach. And I know you're being pulled in different directions, and we did a whole thing on time management on that and how to fix that. Okay? And being remote shouldn't stand in the way of what you're trying to achieve. So it can be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I will tell you that. Because people aren't used to that, a coaching session via phone or video chat. You really can't see them in action, right? So I understand that. You can't see them on a sales call. So you're going to have to some degree, take their word for it when they tell you, what's going on in their territory or how the call went. So it doesn't, in your case, and in mine, because I've gone out in the field and I've attended calls with reps. And when it's necessary for me to get on a plane or get in a car, I do that. And in your case, as a manager that's managing a remote team, you don't have to be one or the other. So you can do coaching when you're in the field with them. And you can see them in action. And we tend to, when we're doing the phone or the video, we tend to preach versus coach. So you just have to keep that in mind. When you're in a sales call and you're taking notes and you come out and you're sitting in the car or you're grabbing a cup of coffee and you're talking about that call, you're really letting them discuss what happened to give you their thoughts before you kind of come back and say, this is what I think. On a phone call, they might say, yeah, I had a problem with this on the call. And you're just kind of preaching at them. Somebody would say, well, that's kind of the same thing, them telling you what happened. No, because you were there, you saw it, you kind of walked through it, you're having a conversation. And this, you're really asking them what happened, and then you're preaching how to fix it. And I think there's just the danger of that. And that's why I put that in the obvious, because that seems to be a danger zone for sales managers in this position. So let's talk about how to be effective and what that means. First of all, I'm assuming you have a structured coaching program in place. So I would look at that and say, how can I make this remote? What does it look like in its form today with me in the field riding with them and how I manage those calls to what I can convert to remote? So my suggestion would be to look at that and make some changes. Like, you're not going to be on the calls. So that's going to change a bit of the dynamic. You're going to have to depend on them to give you the outline of what happened. And you're going to have to teach them to give that to you in a very clean way. What I mean by that is, don't put their own biases or their own inflections. If you've ever watched, a sitcom, when people look back and remember what happened, it's always sort of dramatically twisted to their point of view. And that's how people view the world. So you have to try to get them to be more objective in their view of what happened on that call. Add some structure to it. What I mean by adding structure is you have the written program on how you're going to coach and your coaching program. But the structure is really around when you're going to do these calls. It can't be ad hoc. It can't be when we have time during the week. It really needs to be, this is the date and time. These are the specific date and times we're going to meet on a weekly basis. And this is going to be strictly a coaching session. And this is how much time we have for that. Whether it's a half hour, an hour, 45 minutes. I'd stay 45 minutes to an hour. And it's consistent. It happens the same time every week, except for vacation and holiday. You're likely to stick to that. Then let's find a time next week to get together. And then you do it for a few weeks, and then it's every other week. Then it's once a month, and then not at all. That's what happens. So you need that consistency, and you need it to be an ongoing process. Okay? And if you don't have a structured program, I say this every time I talk about coaching, then you need to build a structured coaching program. And it's structured how you're going to have that conversation or those calls. So in this case, the remote, this is what we're going to do. You're going to give me the account. You're going to give me the scenario, the people that were in the room, their titles, what you were trying to accomplish, and what happened in that call, and where you think you may need some help, or where you think it broke down for you if you're running into a problem. And then you just do that. It's an ongoing process every week, the same time. Sometimes you're micro coaching, right? You're coaching to a specific issue that they have over and over and over again. So you're focusing a lot of time on that. Sometimes it's general coaching based on the feedback they give you. You're providing coaching back. So I leave that up to you in terms of how you build that and structure that. Same time, consistent every week. And I would highly recommend you go down the video road. If my 13-year-old can have video conversations with her friends, not only local friends, but friends that live a couple 100 miles away at the beach where we go. She has these whole crew of friends, and they stay in touch all year, and they do these video chats. And it's interesting because I think it's really helped develop her longer-term relationships with these kids. They're very close, and they only see each other a couple of months out of the year. Why? Because they have this video, they can see one another. And there's all kinds of stuff out there. You can go the route of GoToMeeting with video, right? And that's, the company can pay for that. Or JoinMe has a video. I'm not really happy with theirs, but JoinMe, I've used JoinMe, GoToMeeting. There are a whole bunch of free ones out there. Google Hangout, though I feel like I always have bandwidth problems with Google Hangout. There's one called Zoom. That's pretty good. So there's a ton of free video chats or very inexpensive video chat programs. And all you need is a laptop with a camera, an iPhone. Obviously, you can do it over your iPhones. I don't know if everybody has an iPhone. Yes, there are people in the world that don't have iPhones. We're a split family here. Some have iPhones, some don't. I don't. I battled that thing long enough. Had a lot of problems with every iPhone I've ever had. Knock on wood, Android is the key for me. But I can do video chat on that. I usually do use my laptop, though. Laptop, video, right there. Structure call, boom. You can do it early in the mornings before they go out on calls or late in the afternoons. when they get back, or if they're traveling, so they're in hotel rooms, you can pick times that you can meet with them. But I highly recommend it. You can see, you get a lot more out of the video. People are focused. They're not doing other things because they're looking right at you. You can see their inflections and you can see their voice, but not their voice, their face. And I think that's important. That's how you're effective. Okay? Very simple, straightforward. Structured program, structured time, very consistent and ongoing, and use video whenever possible. I'd make video the standard with the phone, something that's intermittent based on a schedule. So if you have to run to an airport and you have this time scheduled and you're in the car, you might be able to do it from there. Where you're sitting in the airport and you just don't have the bandwidth for video, you can talk on the phone. I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I would highly recommend the video. Steps to success. Develop your coaching process, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, develop it and put it in place. Now, some of you have never had coaching experience or never been trained on coaching. So I would say learn how to coach. There's books and there's things that you can do for self-development. And if the company wants to pay for that, there's all kinds of programs out there. I provide people help with that as well. Get a good reporting tool. Put something in place that you can report on the coaching. Okay? In other words, put it in writing what you're going over. Put it in writing how it's going. So you have a well understood process in place. And if you haven't developed that, train yourself or get training on how to coach so you can understand the skill. There are differences in coaches. Pick any sport. The best coaches seem to have a leg up on the other ones. It's a real science and a real skill to coaching. Those regular sessions need to have a way to report back what's going on. Maybe up the food chain can see what you're doing so they can support it. A feedback mechanism for both. So the feedback mechanism is simple. You want to give them feedback on the work that they're doing, but you want them to give you feedback on the coaching. How did it go? We went through this session. What happened? Did you implement it? Yes. Tell me where the pitfalls were. Tell me what worked and didn't work. You set clear guidelines and expectations so everybody knows, yeah, we're going to do this weekly coaching session and we'll find a time during the week. I'll send you an email. No. Clear guidelines and expectations so everybody knows the rules of the game. So if you have to come back and maybe implement some disciplinary things, you can say, look, this is what we talked about. This is what we put in place. It's not an ad hoc thing. It has clear guidelines and expectations. So I want to talk about putting it in writing. Why in writing? Well, I think a formal written coaching process should be in place. Everybody should know what it is, from the managers to the salespeople to the VP of sales. Everybody needs to know. That's the general overriding guidelines for coaching and coaching remotely. Okay? And you need a specific in writing plan for program for remote because it's going to be different. It's going to be different when you're having a remote session versus when you're in the field with a rep traveling. So you have that overarching written program. In addition to that, you write a plan for each salesperson. So if you have a rep that's 3 states away and you visit once a quarter, what's your plan with them? Is it a micro plan? They have difficulty with this area. Is it an overarching plan? This is how we're going to coach. This is how it's going to work. This is what we're going to do, the days, the times, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody's on the same page. It's in writing, so there's none of that he said, she said. It also helps your reps know that you're serious about it. And then you stick to the schedule regardless of what's going on in your life, even on the days that you're not feeling well. You plow through it with enthusiasm. The minute you start canceling, then you cancel again, and then all of a sudden you just stop talking about it. All your feedback should be in writing, and their feedback should be in writing. So if they have something to say, put it in writing. And here's the mechanism for that, and here's the tool for that. And then what the next steps are, and then you follow the next steps. All of this is important for a number of reasons. One, as a sales rep evolves, If they're not getting better at something you're coaching on, you can refer back to everything you put in writing. If someone is progressing and doing well, you can refer back to that and use that as a launching pad for a promotion for them. Maybe if you're making a recommendation for a promotion. You can also go back and look at where they've had problems if it starts to reoccur again, and look at some of the ways you made changes to fix it, because sometimes people fall back into bad habits. So there's a lot of reason to put that feedback in writing, and they can give you feedback. Well, I don't like coaching. Well, that's not feedback. I do better when we talk about specific deals, et cetera, et cetera. Great. John, I really think you helped me with this. So the feedback needs to be in writing. And then finally, next steps. You put in writing what the next steps are. What are you going to do next? Okay? I try not to end a meeting without having the next meeting set up and in place and picked date and time. Because once you leave the room, then it's really hard to get people back on the same schedule. So it's the same here. What are your next steps in this coaching process? What have I done now to succeed? And then what am I going to do for homework? Well, I have a meeting with XYZ company on Thursday of next week, and we're scheduled to meet on Friday, and I plan on using some of the tools that you've given me to see how it works in the account. And we're going to meet and discuss that. That's your next steps. Okay? The real key to coaching remotely is that communication, that really good process, the communication between the two of you, because you're not going to be in the field with them. So you need to make sure that they're very clear and precise in what happened in the account, so you can help them coach through that specific situation. Remote coaching's hard because you're not there. You're not babysitting them, and they're off doing their thing. But if you put a schedule together and you stick to it, I think you'll have quite a bit of success. Thank you for subscribing to The Funnel. Alignment-group.com/The Funnel. Social media, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, @ShayJohnR, and LinkedIn. You can email me, jshay@alignment-group.com. And, of course, our website, alignment-group.com. Again, as always, thank you, and keep filling the funnel.